Hey friends, it's me, Pastor Doug, with another word of encouragement for the day for today, Friday, May 7th. And today's word comes out of the Gospel of John, chapter 6, verses 5 through 11. And in it, we continue our exploration of this idea of greed. Specifically, that if Jesus is my king, then greed is not my king. So this is a familiar passage that we're going to look at today. It's the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. It appears in all four Gospels, and John's account gives us an extra little detail that I want to point out. Let me share with you what John tells us in his Gospel. He says this, he says, when Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming towards him, he asked Philip, where are we going to buy bread for all of these people to eat? Now, Jesus asked him this, John tells us, just to test Philip, because Jesus already knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, what are you talking about, Jesus? We don't have enough money for this, right? He says it would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to even have a bite. And then another one of his disciples, Andrew, who was Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. He said, hey, there's a boy here with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. And then he adds, but how far will they go among so many? In other words, yeah, that's great that this little boy is offering his lunch, but that's not going to feed thousands of people, of course. Jesus said, have the people sit down. There was plenty of grass in that place, and so they sat down. There was about 5,000 men who were there. Now, that doesn't tell us how many women and children, so there were thousands and thousands of people there all together. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. And he did the same with the fish. Okay, so I know that this is a story about a miracle, and I know that at the middle of this story, at the center of this story, is Jesus and his miraculous power to do things that nobody else could do. But I love the fact that John tells us about this little boy. Now, we don't know anything else about this little boy. He doesn't show up in any other gospel account or any other gospel accounts or any other stories. We don't really know anything else about this little boy. The only thing that we know is that this little boy looked around at thousands and thousands of people, knew very well that 5 little loaves of bread and 2 small fish weren't going to feed thousands of people, but offered them up anyway. And I love that. I love the fact that this little boy offered up what little he had, even in the face of insurmountable odds, far too many people for him to actually be able to feed. Here's the point that I want to make. See, one of the reasons that you and I often are reluctant to give generously is we feel like what we have to give isn't enough, right? Well, I only have $10. I only have $100. I only have $1. And the need is so huge, right? And so we kind of go, well, $5 isn't going to go very far, and I probably need it more, and so I'm going to hold on to it because I need it, and the need is just too big. I love that this little boy didn't think like that. He didn't look at the need of thousands of people and think, well, since this isn't going to help enough, I'm going to keep it for myself. He contributed generously. He fought against the tendency of greed to justify our selfishness, and he gave out of his small amount, recognizing that his small amount wouldn't be enough to take care of everyone, but it was at least a start. And Jesus, of course, we know the story, was able to take that small amount and multiply it and use it for his good. Friends, may you and I take a lesson from this little boy. Whether you've got $100 to give or whether you've got 50 cents to give, when we give generously, even out of our small amount, God can take that, multiply that, use that for his good purposes. So friends, let's you and I continue to walk in generosity and not greed, and trust that because Jesus is my king, greed is not my king. Have a great weekend. Don't forget that this Sunday is Mother's Day. I hope that you'll join us on Sunday morning, either online or in person, for our worship service, and we'll pick these videos back up on Monday. See you then.